afternoon, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. My name is Nuno Fernandes. I'm the Dean of Católica, and I welcome you to this another event of the Knowledge at Católica conferences. I see some of our students are here, and I see some alumni are here as well. Just wanted to give you quick updates on the school, and also before introducing the topic. First, Católica-Lisbon is doing really well. Okay, this year we started the academic year with the two great cohorts of undergraduate students and master students, record quality both on the undergraduate and masters, and very international. As you can see, many of them are here in the room. We've also had the recent news that basically our FT, Financial Times ranking, went up significantly this year, and that was very important as well for the recognition of the quality of the programs we deliver here, and the quality of our research. So that's one of the things that we value the most, is the quality of the research. And in the last evaluation that we were evaluated by scientific panels from the outside, we got the top evaluation in Portugal out of all the social sciences, and that was 24.5 out of 25, correct, David? 24.5 out of 25, and that's the number one. Now, one important thing of the research, and that we want to do much more, is to do an outreach to the community. And that's the goal of this Knowledge at Católica conferences, is to have an outreach to the broad community of Católica-Lisbon, of the great things we do internally, great research, and how we can connect it to the outside world. That's the idea of this Knowledge at Católica. So, this evening, basically, we're going to talk about smart cities. And the idea is that we live in an increasingly digital world, which, of course, affects many dimensions of the way we live, the way we operate. But we're going to talk specifically about smart cities, which is a buzzword and has many different interpretations and definitions. But smart cities ideas, they're all over the world, right? It's not something that exists in Lisbon, although Lisbon is a super smart city, and we're all very smart in Lisbon. But this is a topic, right, René? Okay, but it's difficult to navigate for firms, as there are many important stakeholders. Okay, and we also wanted to join different stakeholders here in the panel this evening. We also have new technologies like artificial intelligence and new targets for society, for instance, well-being instead of just profitability. All of this impact the way we design and think about cities and the stakeholders that operate in this environment. So tonight we brought an international panel of smart city experts to discuss the most important questions at the moment, namely what are the opportunities, challenges, and the lessons so far. I'd like to start by introducing to you Professor René Bohnsack, who will lead the rest of the session. He's originally from Germany and has been with us at Católica-Lisbon since 2015. He's a known expert in strategy and innovation, and before coming to Católica-Lisbon, he was a professor at the University of Amsterdam and a research fellow in St. Gallen in Switzerland. Before his PhD, René worked as a strategic controller for GEA Group, responsible for some business units in Poland and in China. And he really believes and researches on the diffusion of technologies and how business models can actually accelerate this diffusion of new technologies. He's a very accomplished researcher, published in the top international journals, presents research in top international conferences, several Best Paper Awards, several international competition awards. And at Católica-Lisbon, René is also the founder and director of our Smart City Innovation Lab, which is basically a multidisciplinary team of experts working on cutting-edge research on these topics and creating basically well-being in urban areas. So please join me in welcoming René to the floor, who will lead us through a very interesting discussion and will present the rest of the evening. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nuno. Thank you very much for that very nice introduction, and welcome everyone here this evening. And it's great to see you all here talking about smart cities, and of course, like a very warm welcome also to our panel that came here today and sharing their experience, their expertise, and insights on smart cities. But before we start, I know that all of you had kind of a long day, you know. And what better to do, like to warm up a little bit with a game, okay? And I want to start like a little game with you called like a smart city quiz, okay? So usually in this room, mobile phones are not allowed. Tonight we make an exception, okay? So I would like you all to get out your mobile phones get your mobile phones, and please enter the website kahoot.it. So you see it in the top right corner. Please tell me when you're ready. And you have to, like, once you open the website, you have to enter a PIN. And also not only a PIN, but please also put in your first and last name or any nickname that you like to use. Is everyone ready? Who's not on the website yet? Okay, we have 36 players. Excellent. 38. We can do more. We just want to see, like, okay, who are the smart city experts here? And what you will see is, like, in a little bit, we start the game and you will have 7 questions to answer, all within the domain of smart cities. Okay? And you always have 20 seconds to answer. Now, of course, it is important that you answer correctly, but also time plays a role. And at the end, we will have like 3 winners that get a little present. All right? Okay, so we have 54 players. Everyone there? Are you good to go? All right, so Alina, please start. Smart city quiz. First question, how many people in the world live today in cities? 25, 40, 50 or 80%? And now on your phone, you should see like these 4 colors. Please select the color that you feel represents the right answer. Okay, 2 more seconds. Wonderful. Okay. Oh, look at this. Okay, so actually today 50% of the population lives in cities, but of course that is expected to rise. Are you ready for the next question? Okay, let's move on. Oh, Trish, where's Trish? Well done. Okay, so 9 and 14 points. Let's go to the next one. So what is the smartest city in the world? New York, Hong Kong, Seoul, Singapore. Very good, very good. No. Look at that. So according to the IESE Smart City Index, they are like evaluating 180 different cities in the world according to their smartness, like starting from their digitalization to sustainability to well-being in the city. New York is the smartest city in the world. Actually, number 2 is London and the third one is Paris. Right. Okay, well, there's no difference then, Trish, lucky you. Okay, let's move to the third question. What do you think? What are smart cities? 4 options. Oh, very good. Okay, this went much better. Of course, I mean, it was like slightly easier. But yes, again, well, smart cities are digitalized. They are urban areas, infrastructure-based, and they also focus on sustainability and high level of citizen engagement. All right? Very good. Let's see what this You've been working hard. Okay, next question. Question number 4. What is not a pillar for smart cities? So what's not part of smart cities? Social cohesion, connectivity, innovation, or inequality? Okay, very good. All the answers are in. All right, here, very good. Inequality is, of course, not part of a smart city. We want social cohesion, we want innovation, we want connectivity and also sustainability, as we just said. So let's look at the board. Not bad. Okay, we're getting there. Next question. Question 5 of 7. How much has been invested in smart cities in this decade? 2 billion, 50 billion, 72 or 108 billion? Ah, look at this. Okay. So in fact, in the last decade, 108 billion US dollars have been invested in infrastructure, in smart grids, in technology and platforms. And all of these are pushing smart cities today. Now, let's look at the board. Miguel is overtaking. Okay, very good. Next. What is not a sector of smart cities? Smart energy, smart water, smartphones, smart mobility. Ah, okay, that was of course like somewhat an easy one. Smartphones, good. Let's look at the board. Miguel is ahead, afterwards BA, and now last but not least, last question. What is one of the biggest obstacles for smart city projects? Technical problems, government, access to funding, or there are actually no problems? Ah, look. So, of course, it's like a matter of interpretation, but for a lot of experts, in fact, access to funding is one of the big problems in the smart city area. Now, let's look at the final board and who are our... You were just overtaking it, okay? So these are our smart city experts. We have Trish, we have Ado. Where's Ado? Congratulations. We have Miguel. Who's Miguel? Miguel. Congratulations. Very good. Very close. And Trish, of course, for being first. And we have like a little present for you. Okay. So all right, today is like everything is about smart cities today. And we have like an exciting plan. This was like to warm you up. Had a long date, kind of getting you the feel of what are smart cities. Now, the plan for today is that we talk about challenges and opportunities, okay, in the smart city area. So I will introduce a topic shortly, and then afterwards we open up the panel and have also a Q&A at the very end, okay? Now, before we start, being at the university, what do? The first thing you do is you start with a definition, okay? So what is a smart city? And there's different perspectives and not yet actually something that has been universally agreed on. So the Smart City Council would say a smart city is one that has digital technology embedded across all city functions. Okay? So, well, that's one perspective, but somehow I'm not so happy with that. Something is missing. What is missing? The human factor. So if you would ask me, I would say a smart city innovation uses ICT, yes, very good, but also entrepreneurial creativity and sustainable values that we bring in to then, in the end, create well-being in urban areas. All right? So who is more in favor of the first definition? And who is more in favor of the second definition? Ah, I like you. Very good. Okay. So why is that human factor so important? Because there are so many of us. Okay. So when I went to school, 1990s, there were like 6 billion people on this world. Okay. Now that changed dramatically until 2018 to 7.5 billion people. It is expected that until 2040 that increases to 9 billion people. All of us on this world. And here, by the way, this is a map which shows you the allocation not by land size but by people. So this is a map by population, right? And of course you can see where like the largest population in the world lives. Okay. Now, of course, this somehow leads to challenges. There are different challenges. One of them is urbanization. As we just saw on the quiz, more and more people move into cities. Right? That, of course, also creates congestion. In fact, there were already traffic jams that lasted 11 days. That was not in Portugal, that was in China, but still we also feel, for instance, on the A5, that there is an increase in traffic. Right? Now, after all, this also leads to pollution and climate change. Climate change is something that we all witnessed, especially this summer. There was the warmest summer in recorded history. So all of this is something that we face as a challenge. And that leads also to urban challenges. Okay? So that becomes like very, very tangible also on an urban scale in our cities. For instance, one of the challenges that we have to tackle is enabling working mothers. Right? Another one, big problem here also in Lisbon, affordable living space. Then think about reducing waste, using resources more efficiently. Extremely important topic, a very important smart city problem. We need to provide mobility. Right? We need to provide urban mobility, but also for people within the metropolitan area to come into Lisbon, for instance. Right? we need to deliver energy. More people in cities means that there is more stress on the electric grid. How can we provide all these people with energy? Not only energy, but also supplying goods, right? Because all of us, we need food, we need drinks, and we need deliveries from Amazon and so on. But all of that needs to be delivered in cities, also a smart city challenge, and we need to provide water. The list goes on, okay? Now, is this now a problem? Some might say yes. But others, and I always hold it with Peter Drucker, okay? So Peter Drucker, some of you might know him, he said every single social or environmental problem is in fact a business opportunity in disguise. Okay? And that's essentially what we also believe here at the Smart City Innovation Lab. As Nuno already introduced, we were founded in 2016, and since then have been working together with more than 50 international partners, having like several projects. And our mission is really to empower businesses in the smart city context, help them to bring well-being via business models and digital technologies to the market. Okay? So the things that we do, just to give you an overview, we work on research projects, we work on consulting projects that we do, but we also give a lot of education in workshops. And one of the latest programs is, for instance, the Smart City program that we start now in October. And I want to give you some insight how a real problem of a smart city project, which is integrity. So integrity is one of our flagship projects at the moment. It's a 4-year project, in total with 16 million euros of funding. And the goal here is, it's a European project to make energy grids in cities more efficient, more sustainable, and more inclusive. Okay? Now, we use different technologies for that, modern technologies like storage, electric cars, smart grids, electronic platforms, all of them connected, and we need business models for that. And we would be testing that in 8 different countries on in 10 different pilot sites. One of them here in Lisbon. You know that the Lisbon City Hall, the CML, just at Campo Grande, is in fact the building with the highest consumption of electricity of all the buildings of the municipality. And the goal here is, how can we reduce it? So we use, for instance, predictive technologies to reduce energy consumption. We use solar panels. We use electric cars that charge when electricity is cheap and discharge, for instance, when electricity is expensive. And we find viable business models. Now, this works actually very well in this pilot project. But now, if it works, we also want to scale this. And scalability of smart city project is extremely difficult. Why is that the case? Well, imagine these are all different countries, right? They have different electricity infrastructure, they have different cultures, they have different regulation, and different history of setting up electricity. Now, that means that we need certain skill set that we need to understand. We need to understand local regulation if we were able to translate our findings here in Lisbon to all the other countries, which is more difficult than, let's say, we have a mobile phone and we ship that around the world and sell it everywhere. Okay? We also need to understand the local culture. How do you behave with electricity? We found, for instance, in a study between the Netherlands and Portugal, in a project that we just finished, that in the Netherlands, we can incentivize people very good with monetary incentive to reduce the electricity consumption. But that is something that doesn't work as well here in Portugal. Right? So we also need to understand the local infrastructure. Very important that we have multiple stakeholders involved. Right? So it's not a one-on-one relationship, but actually there's always the government, there's like the city, there's the population, there's the companies that need to work together. So that's a challenge. And we need to find a viable business model. So which leads us to some grand questions that we want to answer today. One of them, how do we fund smart city projects? Then how do we scale smart city projects? How to manage these multiple stakeholders that are involved? And what are best practices, right? So can we share some tools that might be relevant for us, okay? So today, I'm very happy to have a very distinguished panel here. And I would like to introduce you first to Diogo Santos. Diogo Santos is partner at Deloitte. He is member of Deloitte Smart City and Future Mobility globally, but also in Portugal. And he led several large transformation projects, one of them, Cascais. And we are very curious to hear all about this today. Okay? Then I would like to welcome Christina a bit more. Christina is a researcher at Aarhus University in Denmark. She has a background in consulting and is involved in a smart city project in Aarhus, specifically on mobility as a service. And she's sharing her insight, especially on the problems between different stakeholders in that city. Then I'm very happy to have José Teixeira here. So he's a professor at Coimbra University, but also the founder of Media Primer. And Media Primer is one of the early pioneers, I would say, in Portugal on smart city solutions and platforms. And you will share insights on the challenges of implementation. And last but definitely not least, Carlos Luis. It's very nice to have you here. So he is Business Model Development Director at Municipia. And Municipia is, interestingly, a company that was founded by 50 different Portuguese municipalities to collect data and provide data. And Carlos will share his insights today on how they use data to develop new businesses and new services for the urban environment. So I would like to give a big hand to the panel. Thank you very much. Welcome to be here. And so we dive right in. Now, the idea is that we go like through 4 rounds of questions. I hope you can see me. We go through 4 rounds of questions. And first of all, I would really like to understand, since like smart cities is such a new environment, how did you get into this smart city domain?
Can I start?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. I've been in consulting all my life. So I've been at Deloitte for 17 years now. But I joined smart cities and future mobility quite recently because this is quite a recent concept. Okay, so I think maybe 2-3 years ago, Deloitte defined globally what were our super priorities. So our super priorities are the areas where we feel that the transformation that will occur will be more intense. So these super priorities are future of mobility, future of cities, so smart cities, the future of work, and the future of health. Okay, so these are areas where we feel that the transformation that will take place, it's a very broad transformation impacting a lot of stakeholders and obviously generating important business opportunities for a company like Deloitte. It is estimated that the services market for smart cities only will grow 10% a year in the following decade. Okay, so this is a huge growth and huge opportunity for a company like ours. And given the fact that we see smart city transformation not only as a technology transformation, but also a transformation that requires addressing policies and processes, regulation, also tax, also the people side of cities and companies and the public entities. So this again represents a huge opportunity for consulting firms, for professional services firms. That's why smart cities became one of our priorities. I would say that the way we are addressing smart cities, it is quite innovative and quite broad, in the sense, like I said, it does not focus only on technology, but we try to address all the other issues that are also critical for the success of smart cities. Okay.
Thank you very much, Diogo.
Yes, thanks. How did I get involved in the topic of smart cities? That was actually rather accidentally. I think the topic kind of found me. In Aarhus, I'm involved in a research group on strategic foresight, where we deal with this big question, how organizations can better prepare for the future. And my specific research is on the creation of new sustainable business models. So of course, topics like smart cities, urban transitions, they came along my path, and I was also quite aware of René's work here with his team at the Smart City Innovation Lab. But it was not until the Aarhus municipality actually reached out to us and asked us to get involved in one of their smart mobility projects that I also really got deeply involved in a smart city project. And maybe just as a little background, Aarhus is the second largest city in Denmark, but it's still a rather small place. 330,000 inhabitants, but the population grew 10% in the last year, and car ownership in the last 10 years. But car ownership increased by 27%. And the city has statistics that on a daily communal average ride, only in every fifth car there's more than one person. So what they initiated is a smart mobility project with the aim to increase especially private peer-to-peer ride sharing and create a multimodal platform that allows citizens to do that. And that's the project I'm going to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Jose.
Thank you for being here. It's okay. Following a long experience with areas like multimedia systems, virtual environments, exploration of cultural heritage space, geographic information systems, monitoring and remote management systems, we came to the question how to improve citizens' life with smart solutions. But this is only a technological view of the problem. Our goal was more holistic view of this problem, how to improve citizens' life in the community. Therefore, we arrived to two correlated areas. One is integrated management of different areas of the municipal intervention. Our understanding is that the municipal authorities need to have an integrated view of all the space and the performance of different activities to better define their policies and to improve citizens' life and community life as a whole. In the other part, supporting active and healthy aging. We believe that the technology is more and more important if it improves the citizens' life. To make this individual possible is required that the cognitive healthy people can be able to take advantage of all technological improvements that are being made available. In order to local government to be able to generate more value from its assets, it is necessary to integrate management activities of land registry, surveying, operational, financial, maintenance, risk management and other related to assets. The advantage of a good asset management are clear. Asset performance improvements, important to improve the social responsibility expectations, and improvement in risk management decisions. Management decisions supported by reliable and current information ensure a good cost-risk performance balance. And therefore reduce costs, enhancing the value of assets and increasing the results. Our approach is this combined approach in these two areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlos, like, how did you get into smart cities?
Well, I must first introduce myself as a geographer, with responsibilities in the way I look in the territory in the first place, with a more technical eyes, I may say. Then, because I was lucky to work in a planning department just when I graduated myself, and in this department we were planning in a municipality the decision making the smart decision making at that time. When I jumped into the company Municipia, It was formed in 99. 60 municipalities believed that a very strong structure where know-how and technology regarding geographical information systems and mapping could help a lot in the day-to-day life of a municipality. And for those who are not familiar with this, the municipalities are the entities, the local public entities that most relevant in the management of the territory, and they are more related to the citizen. All of them with a citizen-centric approach. And when we start in our planning department, half of the team today was from that planning department. Our goal was to digitalize everything and start to develop a special data infrastructure. Meaning that for us, location was really creating value. And we started for digitalization of all the maps, the antique maps that were in the municipalities, then to create strong databases related with each business of each department of a municipality, meaning that I can analyze trees, but also see if the public lighting is having influence or not in the trees, meaning that when I send a team to the field and to increase the mobility and the effectiveness of that team when it goes to treat some kind of disease in a tree, it must be treated like cost reduction and to best serve the citizen. Municipia today is a company with aircrafts, with aerial cameras to make aerial photography, means to produce cartography, GPSs to go to the field, mobile mapping to make TomTom databases, Google databases and others, and in the end of the day to produce very strong application development to make the life easier to those who want to make the cities better places to live, the municipalities, the smart cities.
And of course, you have like a lot of experience already, like with implementing them, and you will also share one of these solutions later on.
Yes.
Now, before we of course go like to the end product and the successful projects, a lot of them might not be as successful, and maybe we can talk just for a little bit about challenges. And Christina, you just mentioned at the introduction that you're involved in the Smart City project and specifically on mobility in Aarhus. And we discussed this before, and you were sharing interesting insights on how the different stakeholders were kind of having different ideas. Or how did that work? Maybe you can share like a little bit on the challenges of smart city projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's true. A lot of times we think it's a technological challenge, but I don't see the technological side as the big challenge. That's actually more where opportunities emerge. I think one big issue in such projects is that they're by definition multi-party projects, and they can also only work when different organizations collaborate, and that lies beyond the authority of one single player. And I think the mobility as a service project in Aarhus that serves well to illustrate what I mean, that all these players need to collaborate and have a certain buy-in when we want to make smart cities work. So I brought a little slide illustrating what's the core idea of this mobility as a service project. I already mentioned they have this idea to create a multimodal platform. It's an app, what you see here in the middle of these two circles, that should offer a person every opportunity to go from A to B, all the options in one single platform, including public transport, like train, bus, in Denmark the ferry, but also private peer-to-peer services. For example, ride-hailing, this Uber idea that every person can become a chauffeur, also ride-sharing, carpooling, and car sharing, so that you put your own car up for others' use at times when you don't need it. And our municipality did a great job in getting all the stakeholders on board, the train company, the transport provider, even the Danish Federation of Motorists, and of course the technological players that can provide such platforms. So I remember that my initial reaction was, yeah, great, then this is going to work. Why is this such an open-ended question? Whether we can demonstrate that this works. And it cannot be rocket science to program such an app. There's already similar things. And that's true. That was not the tricky part here. The data sharing in this project is really not the tricky part. The tricky part is that all these different parties need to come together and realize that there's some buy-in also from them. Take, for example, the train company or the bus provider. What's your interest to join such a platform that maybe even takes your customers away because they don't need the bus anymore when they go to private peer-to-peer ride sharing? From the user side, what makes you not only use such a platform, but also actively participate in it? Would you put your car up there for the use of others? When? Under which conditions? For what price? And lastly, from the city perspective, in the case of Aarhus, they're willing to provide some initial funding to invest in the creation of this app, but will it at some point be able to sustain itself? And who operates the whole thing and deals with customer and user requests? Those are the topics we're dealing with in this project, and that's why I think it's not only about the technological side.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting. And Diogo, I remember, and I know that you're working, or you have like similar problems or challenges at least in the project in Cascais. What do you see as challenges for smart city projects?
Yeah, so I totally agree with what Christina shared. So definitely the governance and the collaboration required for smart cities to actually work, that's clearly a challenge. And I think there are very few examples where that collaboration actually took place at the level that we want. So for sure, some entities end up collaborating, but never we have been able to get 100% of the parties that should be involved actually involved. So this is actually one of the challenges, but instead of repeating what Christina said, I would add you just 2 or 3 additional factors. Because I think that we are seeing a lot of good examples of small-scale projects, very good examples of small pilots, but I think that we haven't been able to actually see a city that is a true smart city. I would definitely argue that New York is the smartest city in the world. Okay, I think that this was probably calculated by Americans, so that's why New York is #1. But I think that we are facing challenges also in terms of strategy, operating model, and funding. Let me just give you some examples around this. So strategy, basically what we are seeing is that cities don't have a clear vision of what's their priority in terms of smart cities. Smart cities include environment, health, mobility, public lighting, waste. It involves many different areas. The thing is that for different cities, different things are top priority, and for other cities, those things may be not as a priority. So I think it's important that each city clearly defines what should be their priority #1 in the short term, because otherwise there's the risk of the cities investing in something that is not actually the priority. So this is one thing. The other thing concerns operating model. Obviously, smart cities rely on technology. That's obvious. I agree with Christina that I don't think technology is the issue. I think it's actually an opportunity for many companies and for many startups. But the thing is that when you implement in a city a disruptive technology, a technology that people haven't worked with before, that demands for new capabilities, that requires new skills of the people in the cities, that requires for policies and processes to be adapted to that new technology. And what we are seeing often is that technology is implemented in smart cities, but then the people, the skills, the policies, the processes, they remain the same. And therefore, you are not taking advantage of the full potential of those new technologies. And finally, we have an expression in Portugal, no money, no clowns. And the thing is that we have seen, like I said before, many pilots, many small-scale projects, but when we want to deploy those small-scale projects in a larger environment, when we want these pilots to actually become full-scale businesses, you need money. And the thing is that the way typically municipalities and countries fund their projects is not the right way to invest in smart cities. Let me try and explain why. So whenever a municipality tries to acquire new technology, they go the typical request for proposal process. Okay, so they define the specifications, very detailed specifications, want this, want that, and this will be implemented in 12 months, for example. Okay, how much does it cost? And then the service provider makes a proposal and says it costs X and implemented in 12 months. The thing is that we are talking about disruptive technology. It's not possible at the moment to define in detail all these specifications. And it is normal that in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 9 months' time, new technologies will emerge, and municipalities, they need the flexibility to adapt to those new technologies and implement new solutions. So the process to implement these technologies has to be more flexible. It does not have to be funded up front. We should look for more collaborative approaches with service providers. So there's a concept that that has gained a very bad reputation in Portugal, the public-private partnerships. The concept is good. Maybe it was not implemented the right way, but the thing is that it's a good concept, and it's a good way for municipalities and countries to fund this kind of projects. And just to finalize, the way municipalities and countries typically have funded their projects, so through the taxes of gas, through the taxes of the fact that we own our own car. When we move to electric mobility, when we move to shared mobility, these taxes will decrease. And so governments, they need to find new ways to fund their projects, because otherwise we'll just have good ideas, small-scale projects, but we are unable to make them grow and actually make them true smart city projects instead of just pilots.
Thank you very much, Joe. Very interesting. Very good points also. And I would like to get a different perspective, Carlos. Well, not different, but kind of like adding on to that. I know that you're working on a platform where you implemented actually a smart city solution. And maybe you can share a bit about how you implemented that and how that was successful, and maybe share that solution.
Yes, we were involved in a 3-year, yes, if you can put the slide. We were involved in a 3-year project. The name was GeoSmart City, where the biggest goal was to develop in open code some pilot projects that could be shared for 12 countries that were involved in that project, 9 countries and 12 entities, and to put it in place and that anyone could share it, anyone could use it as a model, and inclusive with a lot of frameworks, training frameworks that are available in that site, GeoSmart City. Now, why the goal to do something in open code and in a logic of open data? Because nowadays we live in a era when we talk about private companies, anyone talks about data that comes from citizens and to analyze the journey of each consumer. This in the public sector is very far away of being like that. And you see in Lisbon that's already have a CDO like João Termoceiro that could be here. But the reality is that each city has its own data, and there are not a lot of projects sharing the data to be used. And well, this for us, Municipia, our 2 pilot projects was to perform an application for energy efficiency, and the other was to underground intelligence. I want to present you the energy efficiency platform. Is this one? What you can see here is that we have all the buildings, the footprints of each building. We simulate the sun hours at each day of the year, and after that we can produce the solar potential maps that you can see over there. And by putting your address, you can see if your building is prepared to be used to produce energy, or to warm your sanitary waters. Why we perform this project? Because to try to increase the use of renewable energy in most part of the cities. We saw that, for instance, Lisboa Nova, the energy agency here in Lisbon, was trying to make maps, manual maps, to try to see in each corner what could be used, and in some 2 months we performed first the solar potential maps. But this goes behind that. We after that, with the solar potential maps, we use it as a dynamic model. We prepare it to, for instance, an architect could send a model to the 3D model of a building to that map that you see over there, and it could receive in a dynamic way what is the best fit of the building and how it could influence the other buildings. Then we develop a third phase where a citizen, a common citizen, can upload data that he had. For instance, energy certificates, for instance, already installed panels, and that information is really very useful to try to see what is the implementation in over a city in kinds of solar-proof production, and to produce business models in them. You can see that we have there the energy balances. We can put the costs and the consumption, the solar potential calculation for each sense, and then in the end of the day, all the statistics that is dynamic, like the footprints, the energy produced, the medium, the maximum, in a logical of open models and crowdsourcing.
Carlos, so now when we go home later on, I think this is a very exciting platform. Is like, are all of us able to access the data? And if we are, as I like already like successful examples of, you know, making use of this platform and, you know, success cases that you can share?
Today you have this platform in the second stage in Oeiras, the Oeiras municipality. In Lisbon is only in the first stage. You can put your address in the solar map in the site of Lisboa Nova, and you can check your potential maps. But we will be deploying in 2 months the really third stage of the platform in Oeiras also, where you can upload and download information about all this kind of energy data that you see over there.
Because I would find it very exciting to use this to build new business models and try to get more. I mean, to be honest, only 2% of all the energy, less than 2% of all the energy produced in Portugal is from solar energy, right? And Portugal has like the most sun hours, I believe, in like more than 3,000 in Europe, you know. So that is somehow like, we need this.
I can give you the example of Lisbon.
Yeah.
And by the solar potential map, if 4% of the roofs could put panels just to warm the water in the city, the problem will be solved.
So
by solar,
like a challenge
4%.
for us, all of us here in the audience. Huh? Thank you very much, Carlos. That's exciting. Jose, I know that you have already brought to the market Smart City Solution and a tool, and maybe you can share kind of like how that was implemented and what were kind of the most important like steps to bring it to the market.
Okay, it was nice to have these three first the interventions, but I can, from my experience, I identify three main challenges. One is about the authorities, to make clear to them that to implement a smart city project is not an answer to what appear as a momentary fashion, but is beginning of a path. Aims to improve the municipal management and citizens' life. This is very important. It's not. The second one is the top leadership. If it is not possible to have a top leadership, it is very difficult to implement a smart city project, because, as you know, this could be take very long and not have a global view that these kind of projects need. The third one is that to implement a smart city project is not something that from one moment to another a city becomes an intelligent city. This is not possible. We are faced with a process. This process is a technological process, but it is also organizational, personal, and a community problem. And this is the three main challenges. Since we are companies here involved, I think that it's important also to say that for implement smart city projects is not needed a global and big company. A small company, a local company could also be important to implement a project like this, because as some other thing is important is the proximity and the flexibility to do what the municipality needs.
And I already shared with the audience
about this one. Okay, what we see here is a small view of our Premise Smart Cities platform. This is a platform disabled to integrate a different kind of information in same work environment, collecting data from different data sensors, managing big data with the tools needed to extract information from data and allowing decision maker to make good decisions with the data. It's interesting on the right corner to see the use of this tool in a European project, because it's based on this platform that we implement with other partners. René was the leader of this project, is the Mi Square project. In this project, we design and make the technological development of different interfaces with users, web, APIs, using gamification. It was interesting to involve people, and also to implement some algorithms to intelligence in B2C communication, intelligent algorithms for forecasting, consuming, costs, availability, feedbacks, alerts, and so on. It was a very good experience we have.
Thank you very much, Jose. Now we move from like this DFOI rush and like implementations and projects. But then we also have like very close by an exciting smart city project, which has like already got some international acclaim, I would say, namely like the smart city of Cascais. And Diogo, maybe you can share like just a few things. What did you do there, and why is Cascais now a smart city?
Sure. Can you have the slide, please?
Sure. This one?
Yeah, this one's good. Okay, so Cascais has been on this journey for some time now. Okay, they have been able to do this involving many different stakeholders and many different providers. Okay, so obviously there is no single entity that can provide all the services and all the solutions required to cover all the dimensions of a smart city, which is what you see there. Okay, so the first idea I'd like to share is a smart city, in order to be fully smart, has actually to cover a very broad range of areas. Okay, so we are talking about things like smart mobility. Christine emphasized mobility as a service, but then you can think also about mobility on demand. You may think about specific mobility solutions for the elderly, for the disabled. All of this is part of mobility. Then you can think about smart energy, and this is efficient public lighting. This is electric charging stations for electric vehicles. Then you can also think about environment and waste. So sensors to measure the quality of air, algorithms to optimize routes to collect waste, sensors to identify when is the time to collect the waste in a waste bin, or should we wait until the waste is full, until the waste bin is full? So then you can also think about smart solutions on a government relationship perspective with the citizens. So if you think about municipality services, if you think about self-care, so if you think about the portal where the citizen can interact directly with the municipality instead of having to move to a specific office. These are all different areas that the smart city should cover. And what we are seeing in Cascais is that they have been able to, through the partnership with different entities and actually being able to engage with different stakeholders, private companies, startups, some public entities, they have been able to implement different solutions that cover all of these vertical domains, and that's what you see on this map. They are now moving towards something close to what Jose was sharing, which is you have all these solutions, you have all these apps, you have all these systems, but there's great value to be captured if you manage all of this in an integrated manner. So for example, if you have the ability to allow a citizen to report that there's a hole on the road, okay, so this is one solution, then you must link this solution with the solution that manages the field services of the municipality that will take care of that hole on the street. But then it's good also to talk with the bus company to divert traffic to a different road. It's also interesting to allow the traffic police to divert traffic to a different location. So all of this will only be possible if you are able to manage all of these areas in an integrated manner. And what Cascais has recently implemented is the C3, Cascais Command Center. So the command center, let's say, it's something that is at the core of this framework and allows the city to manage in an integrated manner all of these solutions, all of these vertical domains. So you manage them in an integrated manner, you correlate the different vertical domains, and you gain the ability to not only measure in real time, which is kind of normal, but also to have some predictive capabilities. So one thing is for you to know in real time what is the current status of traffic, what is the current flow of people in a given moment, but it adds a lot of value to a municipality to know that, okay, so tomorrow there will be a derby in a big football match in Estádio da Luz, which is obviously the most important, but the good thing for the municipality is actually to predict what will be the behavior of people in such an event. And if you are able to predict the flow of movement, you can obviously take measures not in a corrective way, but in a preventive way. So if you know what will be the behavior, you can plan in advance mobility services, you can plan in advance how the police force will be located, you can plan in advance a lot of things. This is what Cascais is looking for through the command center, not only to manage in an integrated manner, not only to correlate, not only to be able to in real time process all the data that comes from these different systems, but also through data to be able to gain predictive capabilities and address issues and incidents not only in a corrective manner, but also in a preventive manner.
Thank you very much, Diego. I feel that this is now a good moment also to open up the panel to the audience, because I can see that there's like some people that might have questions to all these seeds and food for thought that you were giving us. We have a microphone that will be thrown around. So please, if you have any questions now to the panel, then we have the first one. I know Miguel, second place, no? So, Miguel, we have... No, I don't want to throw it. That would be dangerous if I do that. Okay. Maybe if you could just introduce yourself briefly and then to whom you have a
Hello.
question.
Hello, my name is Miguel. I work in the automotive industry. My question is to Diogo, but could be also answered by someone else. But regarding this project in Cascais, my doubt is, is this data open source? I mean, I think that one of the responsibilities of the municipalities should be to work with citizens' data, which in fact are belong to the citizens, and should help to decrease the barriers, and where, for example, startups and could work on that data and solve real problems. And I don't know if it's that the case, and I would like to understand a little bit more about what happened also in Lisbon.
Sure, that's a good question. I was looking for the slide because one of the solutions that Cascais has implemented, I'm not sure about the number, I think it's Cascais Aberta, or something like that, where the municipality of Cascais makes available to citizens a set of open data. It doesn't cover all of the data domains, but it already allows private companies, startups, or individuals to actually access those sets of data, and sometimes just for curiosity, and other times to actually build business models on top of it. I think in Cascais we are still in early maturity stage, okay? But Lisbon is also taking some steps on that. And if you look at cities like New York, and New York in this case is a very good example, you have in open data very large data sets that can be used by citizens and by private companies to develop their own business models. So I would say that open data at the moment is quite, I would say, common. Okay, what is the difference between, I would say, more sophisticated cities and less sophisticated cities is the amount of data that they make available. I know that what Miguel is actually asking is, what's the ability of municipality to make available data that doesn't belong to the municipality? So obviously, most of the data that actually adds value, it's not from the municipality, it's from the private companies that provide services to the municipality. So it's EDP, it's Brisa, it's the mobility players that actually have the data. I think that's a challenge, for sure. I think that in Portugal at the moment, we are still lacking that space, that step. I think we haven't done that yet. But I think that's definitely the trend. And like I said, if you look at New York and London, those data sets, they are already made available. I'd like to ask you something.
Yes, I should say also that I think also I'm with Miguel when maybe in the head is to have some kind of developer portals where I can have APIs and WMS, and that is not the case today. Today we have lists of data, and I cannot not use it in the applications and in web applications to make my life easier as an entrepreneur. So it's a big challenge, I could say. Municipalities are far away, inclusive Lisbon or Oeiras that have portals with open data. It's not like we would like to have it as an entrepreneur. Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Is there someone else? Yes, please. Here, 1, 2, 3. Miguel, do you want to throw or you? Okay, good. Okay. Yes, we have like here in the front. That was first.
Sorry? No, it's just the concept of the smart city. For me, the smart city is when I arrive in a smart city, where I live it or I visit it, I can have a lot of service as a person, people, that will create facilities for me to move or to live or to find something in a city. And it's not the case today. For example, for me, the smart city is if I arrive in Cascais and I need to find a place to park my car, I need to receive this information clear and not to have a portal with a lot of data, because I don't care about this data. It's not for me. I need something easy to tell me where I need to park my car. In Lisbon, I don't care about all the thousands. If in the street I can find a lot of waste for days there. Smart city is the opposite, is to use all of this to create benefits for the people that are living there. This is the real objective of the smart city. For example, in Paris, you said that Paris is in the third place.
Well, according to yes.
Okay. Because try to find a good connection, 4G, in the hotels in Paris. It's not easy. A lot of Paris, I'm speaking in the center of the city. It's not easy. If you don't have connectivity, okay, you cannot have a smart city. It's for the people, not for to obtain a lot of screens with a lot of graphics moving and nobody knows what they do with that. Because it's a reality. We need to think the smart cities for the people that live there. The results. And the results could be in savings, to reduce the tax for the people, in the quality of the life, no waste in the streets, the really mobility between these and not to spend 1 hour to go from the airport to the center of the city. This is the real smart city, and you are so fair of this. Really, really. Years, or more or less. Just is a remark, just that.
It seems you know my slides are because you were just talking about the vision of the future city, no? So that, I mean, of course, that's something that we all want to work on. Maybe, Christina, do you wanna say something to that, or Jose? Or was that more like, it was probably more meant as a comment, but maybe you can just, Christina.
I agree that the user perspective is really important. That's also what we see in the project that I talked about, that you can create the most amazing platform, but if the people won't join and there won't be a critical mass of users, it just won't fly. Yeah, so that's true. And I also think it's very right what you say, that what is a smart city is relative, yeah, to which city you are in. There are different dimensions, and what might be right for one city is maybe not even applicable in another one. So that's
that's
true.
a very good point. So maybe we can test the swearing part, and now in the very back. Yeah, go for it. Swear.
Okay, I'm doing my
there
best
we
here.
go. Sweet. Okay.
Okay,
Please,
so
if you
my
could
name is Anna, and I'm a student at the Executive Master here in Católica. So we had actually a very nice TED Talk a couple of days ago, and we spoke a little bit about the humanities on this sort of technology. So my question is about that, and my question is to the panel. How actually do we integrate the human factor, which is very important on smart business, in terms of privacy, in terms of people that don't want to be tracked, don't want to share their data, and actually how do we integrate people that are not so friendly with technology? How actually do we integrate everybody in the community? Thank you.
Carlos, you seem to be the data expert. Maybe you have like some solution. I know it's challenging, but is it working?
No, that is a very, very good question, because my vision of the future is a city where we can use that kind of data, because today we don't use it. But in the point of view of the humanity and the privacy, we must work on in the safety of those who don't want to share the information, but also to work on the profiles of that people. We want to best study the journey of each citizen and to best check the ones who have problems of mobility, not mobility by car, but they can mobility by some kind of deficiency or in visuals. And we must really take good care of how can we make the right value of some information that is not shared from persons, but we can see by the movements of a lot of people that is driving through some services and some commerces that typically tell us what patterns today we have, and not specifically that person and that name and with that age and with that male or female gender. So it's today a challenge to have. We want to have that data with us, and we want to do it in a very localized way, to try to better serve the supply and demand in the city, but it's not the case today. But we will work it on and to try to have that kind of safety of the humanity of that issue.
Say, I know, Jose, that like some of the applications for Media Prime already are with the end user. How do you ensure that the data is used properly, and how do you ensure that it's also like inclusive, as you said, for everyone, also let's say elderly people?
This is a very difficult issue. But it is clear for me that we will have a smart city when all the technologic stuff is out of the user, and it is really transparent for the user that he can use services without seeing the databases, the security problems, the sensors, and so on. There are some issues that are important from design point of view. Usually we are very careful on designing the user interfaces related with the age and with the user profile. For example, we have this primer core platform to train the cognitive aspects, and the design was made looking people healthy more than 60 years old and so on. This is something that is very important challenge. Another thing is to choose the data and the information the user really needs. Because one big problem, if I can have a dashboard, a very nice dashboard with a lot of graphs, a lot of data, but from all of this, I need only one or two data. And so the user profile, the adaptive user interfaces according to the user profile are the more exciting and more important issue in this context.
Thank you very much. Yes, wonderful. We had like the lady in the front, but you want to throw?
Sure.
Go for it.
Aloud because I can protect my voice.
Oh, you take the fun away. Okay.
My question is about, I'm a student from the Masters in Strategy and Entrepreneurship. So René is my professor. My question is about the financial part. Because all this technology, all this idea of smart city, it is amazing, especially for millennials. But who is going to pay for it? Is it the government? Is it the companies? Because, for instance, the last example that I don't know your name, I forgot. You were no, the girl. You give us an example of that platform where connects not only companies but also individuals, and you could access all the information in one platform. It is amazing, but the thing is, companies don't want to be there because they will compete with also the users. So for me, it's kind of tricky to find who is going to pay for it. Is it companies? Is it the government? Is it us? So that is my question.
Who is going to pay? You don't want to answer that, no?
Okay, so for sure, someone's going to pay for it. Okay, what we are seeing in some cities around the world, I think mobility is actually a very good example, is that you are seeing new revenue streams for governments. So, for example, you have cities that are already applying some congestion charges. Okay, so basically, if you are driving during rush hour, you pay more. They use dynamic pricing for parking spaces. So in Portugal, you pay the same price for half an hour in a parking space, but through dynamic pricing, you can pay more during rush hour than when there are no cars. You also see, for example, in Portugal, there's now the discussion of, until now, you could charge your electric car without paying for the energy, and obviously that is going to change. So there's a new revenue stream for government. So what we are seeing is that governments, they are trying to identify new sources of funding that try to address the fact that our behavior is changing. Another thing that is also being discussed is, for example, to apply specific charges for the ride-hailing business. Okay, so because of ride-hailing, it is estimated that people will buy less cars. Okay, so if people will buy less cars, governments will get less money from imposto automóvel. So they are thinking about applying taxes for the ride-hailing business. Okay, you don't have a car, so I am not able to tax you for imposto automóvel, but I'll try to get another tax through the fact that you are using ride-hailing services. So definitely this is one way of funding all this technology. In this case, it's us, the citizen, that are paying for it. I think we will pay for the most of it, but okay. And then the other thing is that through collaboration and partnerships with private companies, there is also a way of funding it, okay? Because one of the challenges is how can you fund upfront large investments, large-scale projects. Through public-private partnerships, you can put some of that investment effort in the private sector, obviously with a guarantee of a long-term relationship that will allow the private company to get some return of the investment that they have done on behalf of the government. So I think that's clearly a challenge. We are seeing creative new ways of trying to get that funding, but that's clearly a challenge, and I'm sure that it will require different sources of funding than the ones that we know now.
Okay, so like considering time, maybe a quick answer, and then we move.
Very quick about the funding is also a mentality change. I have a project where I am involved, and in this case, the municipality is able to pay millions about the renewal of a building, but wants to have energy savings, but don't need to invest in networks, in sensors, and so on. Is a mentality. What really should be invested, and if we want to have a smart city, we need to invest in something different than we invest before.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now I would like to collect the last questions. If that's so, we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. You were over. Okay. Oh, I cannot manage 4. Okay, let's do it. So could you please like one after the other, and then we answer them collectively. So your question, please.
You have a mic.
Oh, thank you very much.
About the artificial intelligence and the real estate. So what I would like to know is, we've been talking here about how to use the city, how to improve the way we use the city. But if we want to move to a city like this, we have to evaluate how the cost is. So how does this interact, and how does it interfere with the value of the real estate? It will improve it will lower down, but how does this manage to function? Seeing that what we've been talking about here about cost is just a small part of the cost when you go to somewhere, some city, and you have to buy a house, for example.
Thank you very much.
That's what I would like to know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, what's the impact on our like relationship with real estate? Yes, your question, please. Whoa.
Thank you. Christina, you mentioned one of the challenges to be actually getting stakeholders to the table, and especially public transport operators that actually could lose potentially customers by joining a project. How did you convince them in the end?
Yeah. Okay, how do we convince them in the end? And the last question here in the front. You need to have the cue.
Yeah, I need a receiver. Okay.
Hello. Yes. Okay. I'm Adelino. I'm a journalist, and my question is actually regarding the. We've seen the digital platforms that help to use all the functionalities of smart cities, but we cannot forget the real hardware. Like, for instance, It's all very well to have a smart city like Cascais with the functionalities of Mobi Cascais, which works very well with the bicycles and all the public transportation, and then you don't have a very good train connection with Lisbon, which of course gives most of the people that work in Cascais during the day. So you end up having lots of cars entering entering Cascais. So central government also has a very important role in this in providing the development of smart cities, and I would like to know your opinion about this.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. So we have 3 questions. Like 1 on the impact on real estate prices. 2nd, how do we get stakeholders on board? And 3rd, how is the government solving these issues? So who would like to take which question?
I'll take the stakeholder one.
Stakeholder, please.
All right. Yes, I'm really happy that you asked these questions, because then I get to talk a little bit about the solutions. So it's true that in such projects you have organizations in one room that have, for starters, very different perception of what value actually is. So a city might be willing to fund and invest a little bit more, although there's no direct economic payoff, because for them it's about the societal benefit. Yeah, for a private transport provider, when there's no break even, at least at some point in the near future, that might be a deal breaker. So what we did in this project, for example, is we spent a lot of time in the beginning to get transparency about these different stakeholder interests. Talk about must-haves from each party, deal breakers, showstoppers, and you mentioned the private train companies and bus companies that might fear of losing business. We were quite convinced about that they're rather skeptic and probably just joining because the city tells them they have to. And we actually expected that they would lobby quite a bit against it. Turns out they have a lot of unprofitable routes that they need to serve in the rural areas around Aarhus that they would love to get rid of. So when peer-to-peer ride-sharing can help them to do that, and at the same time increase the utilization of what they offer in the inner cities, they're happy to join. So maybe there's hope, yeah?
Oh, that's a very positive way of looking at it. That's really nice. Thank you very much. Would you like to share some insight on the impact of real estate prices, since you seem to be closest to that?
I could tell you that in terms of real estate, whenever we take a decision in a territory, smart or dumb, it has an influence in the prices of the homes or the prices of I put my services. And we could say that in a future where every city is smart, we can think in a standardization of the prices. But of course, new centralities will be created. Maybe the drivers are not the same as today. I will not pick up a place to put my business or a place to live based on mobility, because that will be solved. I will not search a place to find my job, because it will be much more digital than today. But of course, there will be new trends and new drivers like culture, like laser, that will be influencing the real estate as it was from all the times. By my point of view, it will not change a lot. Okay.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And Hugo, would you share your thoughts on the last question?
Great last question, by the way, because it allows me to bring up a concept, which is the concept of smart nation. Okay, so why think about smart only on a city perspective? Obviously, we should think about smart in a country perspective, and that requires the collaboration that you mentioned. It's not just taking decisions in an internal municipality perspective, but also in an inter-municipality perspective. What I would argue is, what is the role of the central government? Okay, because the way the public entities work and the governance that applies to public entities, it's not the role of the central government to make decisions on behalf of the local governments. Okay, so for sure, central government has a role in terms of promoting that collaboration It has a central role in putting that topic on the agenda, but at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of the regions, of the cities, to come up with a solution for that. And specifically to the issue that you mentioned, which is a very good point, fortunately, we see the example of the mayor of Cascais, the mayor of Lisbon, and even the mayor of Oeiras, all of them sharing a shared vision of the need to address that. And just to conclude, I would say that that is a very good example of an issue that requires to be addressed on a strategic perspective. The challenge is not to talk with CPE or to make or to put the connections in place. I think in first place, you must make the strategic decision of saying this is critical for the people in Cascais, this is critical for the traffic in Lisbon, therefore this is a strategic priority. From the moment that you all agree this is a strategic priority, then it will become easier for the different municipalities to work together. I would say that the role of the central government is to facilitate, to foster that discussion, but at the end of the day, it is up for the municipalities to make sure that the issue is addressed in a, let's say, collaborative way.
Thank you very much. And I think that was like a very nice last point for today. And I selected a few important takeaways that I just want to share before we come, unfortunately, to an end of this wonderful conference. Now, one of the things that I think that we can take away is in smart cities, ecosystems become more important, right? It will be like more about the collaborative effort rather than like one-on-one relationships between parties. Okay? Second, we need to include the regulators, we need to include the municipalities, and the understanding of those municipalities is for everyone, like businesses, very important, right? And that will also be like one of the factors that will help you to stand out as a company, as an entrepreneur, as a startup in the future. Now, we need to embrace the value of data. Of course, it also has like certain perils and danger, and there's also like a lot of anxiety around data, but at the same time, there's a lot of value and will enable us in the smart city to create more well-being if we use it properly. Now, again, scalability is a huge issue, and one of that is funding, and we were already seeing like today some creative ways of how smart city projects can be funded, but it's certainly not the end of it, and there's also like your creativity asked to come up with ways how we can bring these smart city solutions to the world. And last, there's an importance that we emphasize the well-being, the human nature in smart cities, that is essentially it's for us, right? Smart cities are there to serve us and not just like a purpose for itself. Okay? And with that, I would like to thank you for being here today and for your wonderful questions, but especially like a very warm thank you to the panel. And we have also, of course, like a few gifts for you that we share with you afterwards, that we want to thank you. But for now, thank you very much again for being here. Please follow our activities also then on the Católica website and on the Smart City Innovation Lab website. And for this, thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you very much.